You might not know this, but Adventure Time is just as much of a video game series as it is a TV series. Ever since this modern Cartoon Network classic premiered way back in 2010, the video game tie-ins have just been non-stop. Way back in the day, we got like 3 games that were all basically retro Zelda clones. Then as recently as 2018, we got a big open-world RPG that's also a bit of a Zelda clone, I guess. And of course, that doesn't even count the many appearances Adventure Time has made in other games, like multiverses. Oh. Okay. I guess scratch that one. Now, I've talked about basically all of these games in past videos, and they're mostly fine. Some are definitely better than others. I mean, Pirates of the Enchiridion wasn't even really finished, but for the most part, they're just kinda fine. Average. But I might have been holding out a little bit, because I've never actually talked about my favorite Adventure Time game, Finn and Jake Investigations. I got a keyword. Released back in 2015, Finn and Jake Investigations is of all things a point-and-click adventure game. Something kind of different for the world of kids games after 1999. It probably doesn't sound all that exciting to some of you, but I don't know, man. These sort of things are just my comfort games. Especially point-and-click detective games like the Frogwares Sherlock series or even Life is Strange. I just love this kind of stuff. I eat it up. And it's also an interesting setup for specifically an Adventure Time game. It's a real change of pace. I also haven't played it in like a decade, so today I figured I'd just take a trip down memory lane and see how this weird little moment in Adventure Time history holds up. Oh, yo, wait. Is that?
It's one of your Card Wars cards, and it's a lovely shade of penguin beak gold.
Oh, that's awesome. The game made a Card Wars reference. A quick tangent, but you guys remember this, yeah? Card Wars is that in-universe trading card game that Finn and Jake play that eventually was made real by our friends at Cryptozoic. You know, the company that also made those Steven Universe cards I never shut up about? Well, last year, Cryptozoic actually celebrated the 10th anniversary of Card Wars by bringing the game back through a successful Kickstarter campaign that raised over $1.4 million, thanks in no small part to you guys helping out. Well, Cryptozoic has kindly sponsored today's video to let you know that Card Wars is coming back even harder in 2025, with a new Kickstarter campaign for exciting expansions to the game. 3 brand new collector's packs totaling 240 new game cards. Chief among them, the 6 new hero cards featuring classic fan-voted Adventure Time characters, many of whom we may see later on in this video. And we're talking Flame Princess, Fern, Magic Man, Peppermint Butler, Prismo, and of course, the Lich. Plus, exciting new mechanics and ways to play, but most exciting to me are some of the new Adventure Time Card Wars accessories. Multiple new playmats, card sleeves, this Finn and Jake token bag, and this adorable BMO token holder. Oh my god, look at this little creature. There's even Kickstarter exclusive swappable faceplates so that BMO can always be silently judging you no matter what. For those of you who love Adventure Time but haven't delved into Card Wars, you're seriously missing out. I mean, these are all the things that I got for supporting the 10th anniversary campaign last year. It's some of the absolute sickest Adventure Time merch I have ever seen. And depending on which of the current Kickstarter tiers you donate to, you can get pretty much all of this in addition to the new 2025 expansions. So if all that sounds cool to you and you want to fall down the Adventure Time trading card rabbit hole like I have, then you can donate to the Card Wars 2025 Kickstarter by clicking on the very top link in this video's description. You can pledge to any of the campaign's various reward tiers to help support the project and also lock in your new Adventure Time cards. Or if you want, you can just throw them a couple bucks just because you believe in the project. Any of that helps. The project has already been successfully funded, but any more help we can bring the campaign will unlock more and more exciting stretch goals, meaning more Adventure Time cards all around. So again, that is the Cryptozoic Adventure Time Card Wars 2025 Kickstarter campaign active right now, which you can help support by clicking on the very top link in this video's description and donating what you can. Thanks a ton to Cryptozoic for being such a long-time sponsor of both of my YouTube channels, and now this is Finn and Jake Investigations. So as we boot up the game, we find ourselves somewhere. The hell is this? Did I put in the wrong game? Well, no, this is still Finn and Jake Investigations. It says so right there, so wait. The hell is artifact checking? What? Is that like a DLC or something? I didn't know. I didn't know they made that for this game. I might have to check that out later, but I'm getting distracted. Let's get back to Finn and Jake and Oh, now I get it. It's the Grayble label guy. You remember this guy? For a few seasons in the middle of the series, Adventure Time would do these Grayble episodes that focused on a handful of short vignette stories with some kind of common theme. And these Graybles were presented to us by Cuber, a pink dude voiced by, for some reason, comedian Emo Phillips. Yeah, Adventure Time really knew how to pull out the deep cuts. I always tell my students to keep these in their mouths until they can be sewn back on at the hospital. But either way, Cuber here has 5 playable Graybles for us, says they have a common theme that we'll have to guess by the end, and finally, we get into the world of Adventure Time proper. We see our boys Finn and Jake hanging out in their treehouse with their sentient Game Boy BMO, who's really big now. Size of Jake, too big for BMO. The gang wants to listen to some music on their record player, but oops, BMO breaks it. They made BMO big. Little dude don't know their own strength. Anyway, in all the chaos, the gang finds this weird old machine called a ticker type. Apparently, it's some kind of old school device that their parents use to find adventures to go on. When something goes down in the land of Ooh, a message is printed out on the ticker type. So Finn and Jake decide to use it to do a little detective work.
Finn and Jake Investigations!
And we got our title, leading us to Case 1, Sweet Sweet Magic. The first case prints out reporting some missing people over in the Candy Kingdom. And as Finn and Jake set off to solve this case, I can finally start playing the game. Like, actually, with the controller and everything. Yeah, these kind of point-and-click games can have a lot of downtime. But like most point-and-click games, you can walk around and just click on anything and everything. You click on this guy, you talk to him. Click on this other guy, you can judge him. Click on this weird break in the ground. Oh, can't do that. Use Jake on this weird break in the ground and oh, we're going down. So you get it. It's a lot of talking to people, examining things, and using certain items and abilities to progress in ways you couldn't do on your own. So it's King's Quest. My beloved. Anyway, with the kingdom on lockdown after the kidnappings, we sneak into the drained moat and find another way inside, where we then immediately find our friend Abracadaniel getting arrested. And of course, we won't stand for that. So we have to kill the guards. No, for real, we enter combat time. So, unlike most games in this genre, Finn and Jake Investigations actually has combat. Now, I remember this being the absolute worst part of the game back in the day. And I guess that is still, like, kinda true, but upon revisiting it, the combat is actually kinda decent. You have a basic attack with your sword that you can stack combos with. You can block, dodge roll, and after hitting enemies a certain number of times in a row, you get to pick from like 5 different special attacks that can also change depending on what sword you use. You know, it's actually kind of solidly enjoyable in bits. It gets repetitive when you have to do it for too long. But these bits only show up every once in a while anyway, so they aren't too bad right now. And they just feel a little out of place in a game like this. But, you know, even after beating a bunch of banana men senseless, Abracadaniel is still arrested as he's the only current suspect in the case of the missing candy people, particularly Peppermint Butler. We head to the castle and talk to Princess Bubblegum, who lets us take a look at the crime scene in Peppermint Butler's room, where we then get some extra info from Starchy. He says that he heard the kidnapping take place while attempting to drop off some pamphlets, but he didn't actually see anything. Then we get a testimonial from a nearby Gumball Guardian who says he saw Abracadaniel sneak into this room from the window, spilling an entire bowl of jelly beans in the process. Seems simple enough, but through that information, we're able to actually piece together that Abracadaniel couldn't have been the kidnapper, because the spilled jelly beans were on top of Starchy's pamphlets, which means Abracadaniel came in after Starchy heard the kidnapping already going down. And when I say we worked that out, Princess Bubblegum worked that out, which means the game just told us. It actually took me a while to figure out what to do because I was like, I don't have the solution yet. But that's enough info to clear our friend's name with Princess Bubblegum either way. So we head down to the dungeon to free Abracadaniel and see if he can shed any more light on these kidnappings. So turns out a bunch of wizards have been kidnapping candy people in the hopes of using them for something they're calling sweet magic. Gross. I don't like the sound of that. A ceremony that Abracadaniel mistook for some kind of wizard party. So he tasks us with quickly finding his favorite cake plate to take to the wizard party, and then we trace the kidnapper's steps to find a portal that leads us right to Wizard City. In the place where we first saw the Lich, actually. But then when we get to Wizard City, the wizard guards are like, stop, and turn Abracadaniel into a stick. oops. Luckily, we get past the guards because that cake plate turned out to be some kind of weird ancient wizard artifact and status symbol, so they let us through easy. And upon entering Wizard City proper, the game finally opens up as we wrap up the tutorial stuff and head out to solve puzzles on our own. Our first goal is to get into this wizard shop run by a dude named Ron James. But there's this big line outside of his shop, and for some reason, he's only taking one customer at a time. So we gotta help out each of these guys so they'll buzz off. And man, I can't even describe how much this kind of gameplay just makes me feel comfortable. No immediate threats, no chances of dying and having to start over, no time limits or anything like that, just a world to explore and puzzles to solve at whatever pace you want. It's just so relaxing to me. Yes, so relaxing as we find a rope to tear down a bunch of scaffolding, causing tons of property damage. Also, we can grab a discarded brick to go bash in a gnome's skull, leaving his precious bucket of black paint unguarded for us to take so that we can paint a mop black, stick a bunch of goo to it, and give it to a rockman who wanted a fancy wizard beard so he'll get out of line. Yeah, point-and-click adventure games tend to have some really weird logic. Of course, after we clear the line, we get into Ron James's shop and find who else but the Ice King. Luckily, he claims to be invited to this wizard party, so we're able to tag along with him and find the missing candy people in this gross prison cave under Ron James's shop. Why's he got all that there? What's his deal? We make our way into the wizard's hideout where they're preparing their spell with a peppermint butler just straight up dangling from the ceiling. And they also locked Ice King in a cage because, shocker, he wasn't actually invited and all the other wizards hate him. Classic Ice King. But the other wizards are also idiots, actually, because while they start giving peppermint butler the whiz biz, yeah, I am able to quickly swap out their special magic wand with that stick that used to be Abracadaniel. The morons fall for it because I guess this guy doesn't know what his own magic wand looks like, and boom! The whole thing backfires, the wizards get blown to... I don't know actually. They just sort of vanished. Abracadaniel is turned back to normal and Ice King helps us free the missing candy people. Case 1 is closed. Case 2, Lumpy Ice Princess. So yeah, that's pretty much how the game works. Every chapter plays out more or less the same. Finn and Jake get a new case on the ticker type, we talk to people, collect junk, solve puzzles, and eventually things just sort of work out. Like here, Finn and Jake get word of some kind of hairy creature wreaking havoc in the forest, and guess who? It's the Ice King. It's always the Ice King. We find the dude holed up in the forest, encased in a giant slab of ice. So we pull some of that classic adventure game logic and steal a bucket of water from a nearby well, boil it over a campfire, stick a towel in it, and then pry the handlebars off a bike to carry the hot towel over to the giant wall of ice, whereupon this one tiny hot towel melts the entire thing in seconds. I'm telling you, man, these kind of games make you work for it. So that was fun, but why is Ice King crying in the woods anyway? Well, turns out the dude got duped into leaving the Ice Kingdom for a few days, and in the time he was gone, it was decided that a new ruler needed to be appointed in his absence. So now he's been kicked out, and Lumpy Space Princess is in the process of being sworn in as the new ruler of the Ice Kingdom. And to be honest, Finn and Jake, at this point in the series anyway, wouldn't really care too much about Ice King losing his kingdom, or LSP taking over the Ice Kingdom for all that matter. But Ice King managed to guilt trip them into crashing at their place, so now they gotta fix this. So we rush to the Candy Kingdom to put a stop to LSP's coronation. We find LSP and ask her how she even qualified for something like this in the first place. Usually she's the one who's living in the woods. And apparently there are 3 noble deeds that any prospective princess has to perform in order to make the cut. She had to make a birthday cake for a little kid's party, deliver a love letter from one citizen to another, and take Cinnamon Bun's Firewolf for a walk. Sounds simple, but this is LSP. You know she couldn't be bothered. Legit, when we asked her about the cake, she was like, yeah, I just threw together some candy people and some stuff from the ground. What? That's cannibalism. And even though the coronation officiator is standing right there as LSP is like, I gave the kid a cake made of human meat and dirt. Nothing. No reaction. Great. So, I had to yell that in my own apartment. So of course, we now have more than enough evidence to put an end to this coronation and show LSP does not qualify to rule over the Ice Kingdom, right? Well, yes, but Finn also has to take things a few steps further and right all the wrongs that LSP committed. So I gotta go around solving all these puzzles to find Cinnamon Bun's Firewolf and return it to him, deliver that love note, and of course, make a new cake for the birthday kid. One that, isn't made out of human body parts and gravel. But, we did use a cream puff dude's snot for the frosting, so I guess it's not completely free of bodily fluid, but you yeah, baby steps. But you know, who'd have thought performing all of LSP's noble deeds for her just made it look like she did them right all along. So the officiator went through the coronation anyway. Lumpy Space Princess is now the ruler of the Ice Kingdom. Things go to hell in about an hour. We find LSP in Ice King's castle, and the place is in shambles. In the process of helping her get things in order, we realize that this was all LSP's plan to begin with. We find this special key for her, and she immediately grabs it and beelines for a secret pathway deep in the castle. Obviously, something's about to go down, so we follow her and find something a little bit different. The game actually takes a break from inventory puzzles for a bit, and we get a good old-fashioned Zelda-style block-pushing puzzle. These Adventure Time games just can't escape the Zelda influences, I guess. And I actually got genuinely stumped here for a bit. You're trying to move these blocks around to build a path to this door, but there's only certain directions that you can push the blocks, and the door itself won't open without something weighing down a pressure pad. Obviously, you could just have Jake sit on it. That solution pops up a lot, actually, but then Jake can't get through the door. So I thought I was gonna have to build a differently shaped path and find a way to get an ice block on top of the switch. Turns out that's literally impossible given how everything is set up, and I was just supposed to use an item to wedge the door's counterweight to stay open after Jake pressed the switch. Yeah. That one's on me, man. I way overcomplicated that one. Anyway, we catch up with LSP and find her at this giant ice altar of Fiona and Cake, furiously writing in one of Ice King's Fiona and Cake fanfiction books. Turns out all of this was a setup from LSP, shocker, but her primary goal wasn't to gain control of the Ice Kingdom, luck her way into luxury, or anything like that. All she wanted was access to Ice King's Fiona and Cake books so she could add her own gender-bent OC, Lumpy Space Prince, into the story in the hopes that he would be made canon and come to life. All of this was a ploy by LSP to try and hook up with herself. Genuinely unhinged behavior. Good lord. Luckily, the officiator just sort of spawns into the room. Did he have to do the ice block puzzles too? And he quickly revokes LSP's rule over the Ice Kingdom, having seen the state of the place and having finally heard how bad she did her noble deeds. LSP gets dragged away and everyone else just kinda leaves. Wait, she was right? Case 3, sour notes. Everybody's dancing and they just can't stop. Except it's not fun. It's psychological warfare. Legit, Magic Man shows up and casts a spell that fills everyone's head with incessant music that forces their bodies to dance non-stop. Which means, for the first 10 minutes of this chapter, every time I stop moving, Finn just starts wiggling at me. Don't you look at me like that. Now, we can't figure out how to stop the music, but we can block it out. And Jake has the bright idea of making psychic earplugs out of, I'm serious here, pickled sonic squid tentacles that we have to stick in our ears. Yeah, I'm not touching that one. But we do it, and with the music effectively blocked out and our dancing torment stopped, we head out to find Magic Man. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't fully get his game here. He says he cast this dancing spell so that everyone would realize just how big of a jerk he is, but then he spends the rest of the chapter trying to convince Finn and Jake that it's actually not that bad of a thing to do. And for the next 20 minutes or so, the game just becomes this random series of puzzles built around Magic Man putting this one candy dude into increasingly inconvenient situations, all to prove that the dancing could be worse. I get that Magic Man just liked to be annoying, but I'm just not following the logic here. And then when we finally do catch up to him, he just stops the music and dancing and pieces out. But instead, now there's this piercing shriek coming from all over the place. But it's not in their heads anymore. We trace it down to one of these weird little lemon things. Wait, lemon thing? Oh god, wait.
Unacceptable!
Yeah, lemon grab's in the game now. And don't we all rejoice? He's apparently sounded the alarms all around Ooh because his sound sword has gone missing. We agree to find it if he shuts up those lemon alarm things. And then, randomly, the chapter switches gears entirely to be about Flame Princess. Yeah, we run into her while looking for the sound sword, and turns out she's hiding from some rogue flame guards trying to overthrow her rule over the Fire Kingdom. Luckily for us though, one of them just happens to have the sound sword. A guy named Leroy.
Prepare to taste the wrath of Leroy Flame Guard!
Damn! Is it 2005? Was that seriously a Leroy Jenkins joke? That meme was like 10 years old when this game came out, and this game is 10 years old. Good lord, it's like a 20-year-old dead meme. Yeah, anyway, facing the flame guards is kind of the closest thing this game gets to having boss fights. Yeah, after solving some puzzles to make a plan of attack, you enter combat time, fight a few guys, and then another identical guy shows up, except now he has a name, so I don't know, he's more powerful. But you don't even really fight him. If you keep swinging at him, it's not gonna do anything. Instead, you gotta do that boss fight thing where you trick him into running into something. Do that enough times and, victory, hooray. Oh, sorry, gotta be honest, these combat sections are starting to get pretty repetitive. My relaxing is kind of starting to turn into zoning out. I mean, point-and-click adventure games are never gonna be the most blood-pumping experience, and I really do like the low-key vibes. But as I'm reaching the halfway point of this game, I'm honestly starting to get a little worn down, kind of bored, really. I mean, aside from this one boss fight thing, the combat never really evolves. The puzzles never really get much harder, and the presentation it's pretty one-note. The vibe of the whole game never really goes beyond neutral. No matter what's happening, it doesn't feel like there are any, like, stakes or urgency. So, you know, after a bit of a break, approximately 8 hours unconscious of a break, I hop back into the game and finally get that sound sword from the dead meme man. We take the damn thing and lug it over to Castle Lemongrab, but Magic Man got there before us and tricked Lemongrab into believing we stole the sword the whole time, even though we told him we were gonna look for it and bring it back to him. And Lemongrab, not particularly bright, so he takes the bait, plans to restart all those screaming lemon things, and of course, sentences Finn and Jake to 100 years in the dungeon. We break out in like 30 seconds. But now that Magic Man's back in the picture, kind of manipulating Lemongrab, we gotta take both of them down before everything can get back to normal. And obviously, Finn's first instinct is to pull a bunch of pranks on Lemongrab. So, we throw him out a window.
My lemon buns!
Nice, harmless pranks. Obviously, this enrages the lemon dude, so we get sent to the reconditioning chamber. Essentially a torture room where Lemongrab, like, shocks people. He does a lot of that. In fact, we actually found a shock collar while pulling that first prank. So while Lemongrab is preparing to shock us, Jake snakes his arm through an air vent and plops the collar onto Lemongrab, sending him into an electroshock panic. In the chaos, Finn and Jake work out that the chamber's control panel is likely also controlling the lemon things, the shock collars, so we quickly break out and smash it to pieces. But this leaves the reconditioning chamber totally unstable. And luckily, Magic Man poofs himself inside to try and gloat right as the thing goes haywire. So, with the psychic music gone and the lemon things not screaming anymore, our third case is closed. And all we had to do to make it happen was murder 2 men with high amounts of electric voltage. Easy peasy. Case 4. Everything must go. The ticker type gives us a brand new case that's less of a fun adventure and more of a natural disaster. Apparently, temperatures in the Fire Kingdom are rapidly decreasing, which is obviously super dangerous for an entire race of people made of fire. We race down there, and sure enough, the place is steaming up like crazy. And to help out, we're gonna need to get into the Flame Kingdom's core. And even though it is cooler here right now, we're still gonna need flame shields for that. So we find this weird little fire gremlin guy named Flambeau, and he's like, doop-dee-doo, now you blue. And boom, we got flame shields. Oh, that was easy. So we hop over to the flame core and find that all of this intense climate change was just Starchy holding a malfunctioning magic water shooter. Oh, is that why the polar ice caps are melting? And we puzzle our way over to Starchy and legit just turn the thing off. Easy. But why would an average Joe like Starchy have a powerful magical device like this to begin with? Well, turns out Marceline has been running a yard sale, selling off all the belongings of Finn and Jake's adventuring hero, Billy, because she used to live in his house before he died? Did he die? He died, right? Meaning that all the citizens of the Land of Ooh are getting a hold of super powerful and crazy dangerous magic junk for just a few dollars a pop. That, likely, will not be good for the environment. Or the economy, really. It's also bad for us because we accidentally get doused with a teleportation potion that sends us deep into Billy's cave home thing. And at this point, the game becomes kind of scattered. I guess now that we're reaching the final stretch, the game really wants to throw everything at the wall. In Billy's cave, we explore, find gems, try to put them back into magical gem holes, realize they won't stay in said holes, so we spit some gross chewed gum onto the priceless magical gems to make them all sticky, and then plop them back in their holes. This gets us out of the cave. Where then, Marceline tells us that she managed to get back all the stuff she sold except for Billy's magic sword, No Tongue. This sword magically flies to its its owner whenever its name is called, and since Marceline sold it to Cinnamon Bun, that means it's right back to the Fire Kingdom. Luckily, Cinnamon Bun hates the sword anyway because he can't stop it from flying around, so he is totally down to transfer the ownership.
Ow! This soup is burning my taste buds! Ow! Oh, I wish I had no tongue!
Ew! Ugh! Oh, I hated that. Gross. Ew, don't do that again. But even though the sword is now responding to Finn when he calls its name, he can't catch it when it flies towards him. So for some reason, that means we now have to go back to Castle Lemongrab to use one of Lemongrab's prized catcher mitts. Was that a thing? We have to use one of those catcher mitts to catch the sword. Sure. Okay. That checks out, I guess. Why not? And then once we finally have the sword, we burn the deed of ownership so it'll go back to being Billy's property, and we use it to seal up the cave, and that is case 4 done. I gotta be honest, that chapter felt a lot more like busy work than solving a case. In fact, we're not really solving a ton of cases at all anymore, are we? That tutorial segment with the Peppermint Butler crime scene really made me think we were gonna be going around and interviewing people to collect evidence and investigating crime scenes and stuff like that, using logic to piece together whodunit mysteries, you know, detective work. But after chapter 1, the mystery of these investigations only lasts maybe a few minutes before the game just gives the whole thing away and swaps back to normal busy work type stuff. You know, I was really hoping for a little bit more investigating in this investigation game. Less errands and scavenger hunts. But you know, whatever, we're at the end anyway. Case 5, Album Recover. So over the course of the last 4 chapters, Finn and Jake have actually kept one random item they pick up from each one. Abracadaniel's cake plate, LSP's scepter, the lever to Lemongrab's reconditioning chamber, and Billy's magic water thing. And BMO decided to take all of these things and use them to build a brand new record player. Yeah, remember that? All Finn and Jake were trying to do at the start of this game was just listen to some music. Well, after all these adventures and investigations, Finn and Jake are ready to kick back and celebrate their hard work. But, even though BMO was able to use a bunch of random junk to build a record player from scratch, they apparently don't know how vinyl records work. They thought Finn's childhood favorite record was dirty, so they cleaned it and buffed out all the ridges and grooves, not realizing that that's where the music is, man. Seriously though, vinyl records are magic. Have you ever manually spun a record with a needle on it, no speaker connected? You can still hear the music. It's witchcraft. I'll never understand how it works. But Finn's record don't work no more. So they go to the most musical person they know, Marceline, who says that they can actually fix it. Apparently, if we put together a band and use just the right magical recording equipment, then no matter how bad the band plays, the record will come out perfect. But the equipment is rare. It will not be easy or cheap to find. So anyway, we go to Wizard City and find literally everything we need for free. Damn, if it were only that easy. So now we just need a band. Marceline's on bass, obviously. So now we need a drummer, a singer, a keyboardist, and some kind of extra high-frequency secret sauce. And wouldn't you know, that just happens to fit perfectly with all the NPCs that the developers already had character models for. So we hop to the Ice Kingdom and convince the Ice King to be our drummer. We find LSP living in the woods again and get her to be our lead singer. Apparently Flame Princess plays piano, so that works, I guess. And of course, we gotta take one last trip to Castle Lemongrab to get him, and more importantly his sound sword, to be our secret sauce. Of course, all these rounds came with puzzles to solve and stuff. Ice King needed us to find his missing symbol, LSP needed to be convinced by her fan club, which we had to bribe people into joining, and Flame Princess was too depressed and anxious about how her rule over the Fire Kingdom was going, so we had to scrounge up some thank you notes from the Flame citizens to bring her spirits up. Which, apparently Cinnamon Bun already had. Dude was just sitting on stacks of letters from Flame citizens that he just forgot to give the princess. Dude, aren't you like her second in command? You literally moved from the Candy Kingdom to the Fire Kingdom to be her right-hand man full time. You live in a flame shield now. And you even said you noticed that she had been down and it was making you sad. But with all that, you never thought to give her the massive stack of thank you notes from her citizens? Also, when Finn asked you if you would write a note yourself, you said you didn't think you could because you weren't inspired enough to write a thank you note to Flame Princess. But then Finn was like, well, what if you think about Flame Princess? And you were like, oh yeah, Flame Princess, she inspires me. Cinnamon Bun, I say this knowing full well what your character arc in the show is. You're a damn idiot. Anyway, we lie to Lemongrab and he brings his sound sword to Finn's house. So with the band all together, we get one just awful jam session that, through the power of the magical recording equipment, is turned into a completely different song with absolutely zero similarities to anything the band actually recorded. Finn and Jake say, "Wow, we had a great time being investigators. We should do this again sometime, in like a sequel." And it never happened. The end. Oh, right, the Grayble theme. Oh, I forgot about that. After the game ends, we come back to Cuber's domain where he quizzes us on the theme of the Graybles. Our choices are favorite things, Magic Man pranks, different kinds of records, or the emotions. This is actually a pretty clever setup because just about all of these are kinda true, but only one of them applies to all 5 chapters, and that was the emotions. It also doesn't matter if you choose the wrong one because the game will just let you keep choosing until you get the right answer. It's the end of the game, who cares? But no, it was the 5 strongest emotions: fear, envy, anger, sadness, and love, apparently. Because Abracadaniel was scared when he got arrested, Ice King was jealous of Finn and Jake's house, Lemon Grab got mad at all the pranks, Cinnamon Bun was sad that the sword he bought was making things difficult, and because Finn loved his favorite record. Ain't all that just the cutest thing you've ever heard? And that is Finn and Jake Investigations. And genuinely, it's a pretty solid game. It looks great, it plays pretty well, and actually has some solid point-and-click puzzle design for a kid's game. It is pretty repetitive though. I would not recommend binging through it all at once like I just did. But if you just played like 1 chapter a night, I think it would be a perfect, nostalgic, cozy game to help you unwind before bed. And if you're a really dedicated Adventure Time fan, this game, of all the games in the Adventure Time series, I think is the most rewarding to play. It really puts in the effort to keep the show's lore in mind within the story, at least the most recent lore at the time the game came out. You know, tons of references to past storylines and character arcs and junk like that. It's really cool. I would actually love to see an Adventure Time game in this style again. You know, maybe give it more of like a strong overarching plot, more stakes, ramp up the challenge a bit with the puzzles, and give us some like real mind-bending detective cases to solve, and you genuinely could have the makings of my favorite cartoon game ever. Oh wait, I almost forgot. Bonus chapter, artifact checking. I couldn't play it. I don't think the game exists anymore. Yeah, from what I can tell, this was some kind of DLC chapter where you play as Marceline, but it's not on the disc, it's not on the PlayStation Store, and even though the DLC is listed on Steam, the full game isn't, which makes the DLC essentially useless. You could still spend $2 on it though. Yeah, you heard me right. Finn and Jake Investigations isn't on Steam. It's not on the PlayStation Store either. Turns out the damn thing's been wiped from basically all digital storefronts ever since the publisher, Little Orbit, lost the rights to the Adventure Time license. Meaning that if you watch this video and want to play Finn and Jake Investigations, you have to track down a physical copy on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Xbox One, Xbox 360, Wii U, or 3DS. That's it. You cannot get it digitally. You have to get it physically. And if you want to play artifact checking, tough. So screw me and everything I just said, I guess.